Alright, this is just going to be a quick update on what I've done to the LS engine. Nothing groundbreaking since the last update. Like I said, most everything for the blower part's fabricated, but I'm just going to give you a little, tell you what I've done to it. Got all the pistons in and I got it back on the stand again. But the way I wanted to gap the rings for the boost, and I also reused the stock rings in it. A lot of people do, and they've been able to do it just fine. I figured it saved me a few $100s by going with the stock rings, so I just re-gapped them to a wider gap on top. The reason you want to do that is when you start adding boost, you get more heat in there, and then the piston rings, if they contact each other from getting hot, they'll usually pop up and then bust a ring land off the top of the piston. The top of the piston will break out. So you want to make sure you have a big enough ring gap to compensate for the heat the engine build. The extra heat the engine builds with the boost. In this particular application, after doing some research, for the 4-inch bore I went with a 0.28 gap on the top ring and a 0.025 on the bottom ring. The bottom ring on this was actually right at 0.25, so I didn't have to grind any of the bottom rings, only the top rings. And when you do these rings, I should have recorded this before I started, but I didn't. I put one ring in the bore, and then I kind of put the piston in a little ways to get it nice and flat, and then I measure my end gap on the ring with a feeler gauge. And for all subsequent rings, what I did was I went ahead and loaded this piston in, and then every time I wanted to square the ring up, I would have the piston down here at the bottom of the bore, and then I'd rotate it up, and that way it would square it right up. So that's how I went about squaring the rings in the bore. They do make a deal you can stick in there that'll sit flat on the deck and only push the ring in so far. But I just did it that way. Also, the carbon on these pistons cleans up real good after they've sat for several months, so I didn't have a problem getting the carbon off of them. And then obviously all the dots go forward on these, so no big deal. I did reuse the rod bearings as well. I put new main bearings in it, but I reused the rod bearings. They look brand spanking new, so no sense in wasting money on that. Also, I like to coat the cylinders with transmission fluid, especially if I'm not going to let it sit for super long. If you let it sit for a long time, you might consider a heavier weight oil, but the transmission fluid will help the rings seat in better. These have been honed from a machine shop, so they do have a new crosshatch on them. And I'll show you what I use to grind the rings. Alright, this is the tool I use here. It's just, I believe it's got a diamond blade in it. And then you clamp this down on a table, and then usually it's got a little hand crank over here. You crank it and grind it. Well, I always just stick my drill on it and turn it on. That way it goes a whole lot faster. And some guys will grind both ends of the ring at the same time. I always just like to grind one end of it and then push it together and make sure it's squared. That way I don't got to mess with deburring both ends of the ring. So I'll just have to deburr one end of the ring when I use it this way. So it went pretty quick, especially using that drill. Once you figure out a couple, you know about how long to keep it on to get the ring gap you need. So that's a cheapy tool, but it works really good for what I do here. Alright, I'm going to do a quick rundown of parts I got for this engine. If you want to, just pause it, and if you want the part number, I'm not going to read them out, but there's my head gasket kit. This is a LS9 head gasket. It's used for 6.0 and 6.2 liter bores. I've heard of people using them on 5.3, so I guess you can do that too, but I have no idea if that's going to work for you. Then I have the valve lifter trays for the non-active lifters. You'll need a total of 4 of these. They each hold 4 lifters, so 4 of those. And my engine has provision for a chain tensioner, so I'm going to use it. There's part number on that if you're looking for one. Just set up pretty easy. A lot of guys don't run them. I think I'm going to try it. I may not. I don't know yet. We'll see, but I got it in case I do. I decided to go with a 3-hole cam gear, and I needed this style of gear because there's more options if you have a 3-hole cam gear or a 3-hole cam instead of just the one big one. So that's why I went with the 3-hole. This is also used with the 58X reluctor wheel on the crankshaft, which is what I have. So there's part number on that. I also went ahead and bought a complete rear cover. By the time you price up a new rear seal and the gasket on the other side, you're almost to a price of a whole new rear cover. So just as well get a whole new rear cover. It goes with new bolts, everything's set up, ready to go. And part number on that is right here. There's the part number for the rear cover. Then here is the complete set of the LS7 lifters. Also, do not try to part these lifters out individually. You pay way more if you do that than if you just buy the whole shebang. So just buy the whole kit. It's way cheaper that way. So this is a new front cover for that. It has the cam sensor up front. And there's the part number on that. Once again, it comes with all the bolts, gaskets, and seals you need, even the sensor for this one. So pretty good deal. Well, that is going to do it for this update. It's short, but hopefully some of you guys can use some of that information on your own builds if you don't know exactly what you're doing. I've been doing this stuff for years, so it kind of comes second nature to me, and I don't really pay attention to what I'm doing, whereas other people have no clue what I'm doing. It just comes so natural to me because I've done it over and over and over again. So hopefully you guys will find that information helpful, and hopefully I'll have a Chevy 2 before much longer. I've been looking and looking and looking. Found a really good one and then vanished off of eBay, contacted the seller because I was going to put a pretty high bid in on it, and he said he took it off, didn't say why. I assumed someone else bought it out from underneath me. So anyways, thanks for watching, and as always, please like and subscribe.